In today's reporter story, I'm talking about scary stories. So, scary things that happened as a reporter. As you can imagine, many times people do not want to talk to you and do not want to deal with a reporter. So, very early on in my career, when I was working in Idaho Falls, Idaho, there was a story, a sad story, where these dogs, like family dogs, attacked this kid and really messed up his face, to be frank. And he was okay. He did not die, but it was a big story in a small town. So I had to go and interview or try to interview the dad. And yeah, he really did not want to talk about it with me. So I knocked on the door, which is fine. You're allowed to knock on the door and ask. And if they say leave, leave. And so I came up and I asked as nicely as I could. And I don't even know what I said. I mean, obviously those situations are really hard. And most of the time it's best to just be honest and say we're covering the story about this really tragic thing that happened and wanted to talk to you and give you an opportunity to give your side of what happened. So just being as compassionate as you can in that situation and as respectful as you can, I think really helps. But he was very mad and did not want to talk to me and did not want me on his property and started sort of coming after me and sort of swinging his hands in the air. And it was toward me, but not, I mean, it was scary. It's like he wanted to hit me, but he couldn't. And so he just, get out of here. And so I was backing up and quickly got in the car. And so that was pretty scary. I've never had anybody lay hands on me, but I have had friends who did get hit. A female colleague of mine years ago got hit and it ended her career. It scared her so bad that she quit. So I can see where that can be really scary. Let's see, what else is a scary story? I definitely have students ask me if I've seen dead bodies. Yes, I've seen and smelled many dead bodies on different stories. One time I was at a story where a guy drove his car off of, it's like off a cliff into this waterway. It was an accident and he died. And I was sort of taking notes and looking around the scene because I quickly got there and had to do a live shot. So I was trying my best to talk to one of the police officers really quick and do the who, what, when, where, why, how. And so where I'm taking notes and thinking about what I'm going to say, and they had pulled him out of the water and were dragging the body, kind of just dragging it in the dirt. And I looked up and I saw these feet kind of go by and was like, oh my God. And yeah, it was his body. I don't know why they were dragging it. I don't know why they didn't put it on a gurney. Anyway, it was really scary and startled me. So yeah, I mean, there's some stuff like that. There's dead kids on the highway. Everything you hear about does happen. A lot of the news, unfortunately, is covering death. Let's see. I covered an execution one time, which was terrible because driving down, my photographer and I really studied the case, and it was a case that had a ton of controversy around it and holes in it and a lot of questions around whether evidence was planted and did this guy really do it. And after reading through all the paperwork of both sides, there was a lot of good evidence, I thought, for both sides of like, he could have done it, he could have not done it. The jury convicted him and decided that he did do it, but it was very question marky for me. And the attorneys were trying to do the last appeal. It did not work. And so I got to San Quentin, and the way that they did it at the time was that they had reporters would pick from this, it's like a bowl of like, if you pick your name, you get to go in and watch the execution. And I say, get to go in, I mean, like, I didn't want to go in and watch the execution. I was fine with covering it. It was an important story, but I picked my name. And I remember standing there going like, I don't want to watch this. And there were other reporters there that were just chomping at the bit to go in and watch this. And I thought, what a life-altering thing, whether the guy's guilty or not, to watch another person be killed. I think it was lethal injection. So long story short, I gave it to someone else. I'm sure my boss probably would not have been happy with that. I didn't tell him. But yeah, I gave it to someone else. And then after the execution, what happens is that they would have all the reporters that watched it kind of be in a panel, and then the other reporters would interview them about the execution and what it was like. And that to me seemed weird too, because it probably was awful. Like, do we need to talk about like, oh, he looked scared, he looked terrified? Like, I just didn't understand any of it. Like, I thought it was the weirdest thing, and I'm not sure if they still do it that way, but I am so glad that I didn't watch that, because that would have affected me terribly. And I just feel like it's one of those kind of no duh situations of course it was awful. Of course it was uncomfortable for the family members watching. Like, anyway, that was really scary. And I'm glad I never had to do that again. I only did that one time. Fires. I covered so many fires, especially when I lived in Sacramento and reported in that area. Fires can be really scary because you get in them and you're shooting video of them and talking to people getting evacuated. And sometimes the fire can get so close that you're sort of stuck. And that happened one time for me and the photographer that I was with. And we had to kind of back up to a garage of someone's where the firefighters, I think, had kind of either cut a line or like watered it down or both, to where we were fairly protected, but the fire kind of went by and we were sort of backed up against this garage door and couldn't move. And we're basically trapped until it went by. So situations like that are kind of exciting at first. And then once you're in it, it's like, really, really can be very scary. So yeah, it was, those are some of the scarier things that pop out in my head that happened. That, yeah, were kind of, I've been bitten by a dog on a story. I've been chased by dogs. But again, thankfully, I never got hit or had anything like, or assaulted where I felt like I needed to, quit my job because of it, like that woman that I knew did. Okay, so next time I'm going to talk about more positive things, because it's not all negative, believe it or not.